Most people walk into a room and see faces, conversations, and surface-level interactions, but a Sigma male walks in and sees something entirely different. Currents of influence, unspoken tension, shifting alliances, hidden insecurities. The silent architecture of power. While others speak to be heard, he stays quiet to understand. His silence isn't hesitation, it's data collection. His stillness isn't shyness, it's strategy. And because he reads power without announcing himself, he understands people long before they understand him. He notices who commands attention and who quietly seeks it, who holds influence and who clings to it, who leads naturally and who performs leadership for approval. He sees the invisible exchanges, the glances, the gestures, the subtle changes in tone that reveal more truth than words ever could. And in just seconds, he maps the room. Who has power, who needs it, and who pretends to. A Sigma doesn't compete for dominance, he studies it. He doesn't chase status, he understands how it moves. And because he reads the room silently, he gains an advantage no one notices until it's too late. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, do you analyze the room before you speak? If yes, drop the word aware. Studies who people listen to naturally, not the one speaking the loudest. A Sigma male understands that true authority is never found in volume, it is found in influence, in the subtle gravitational pull a person has over those around them. So when he enters a room, he ignores the loudest voice entirely. He isn't impressed by the one dominating the conversation, speaking over others, or performing confidence like a mask. Instead, he observes something few people ever notice. Who the room orients toward, who people glance at for approval, who they pause for before responding, who changes the emotional temperature of the space simply by existing in it, because the loudest person demands attention, but the real leader receives it without asking. He watches the dynamic like a silent analyst. The one who speaks constantly is often insecure. The one who talks big often needs validation, but the person whose presence shapes decisions, even with minimal words, is the one holding real power. The Sigma notices how the group subtly leans toward them, how their suggestions become direction, how their silence creates tension, how their disapproval shifts the entire atmosphere. This is the individual he studies. Because understanding power begins with understanding influence that does not need to shout to exist. The Sigma male's ability to read these dynamics comes from his instinct to watch before acting. While others get pulled into the noise, he focuses on the undercurrent. He studies microexpressions, posture, eye contact, the timing of reactions. He feels the invisible hierarchy that people don't speak about but obey instinctively. And because he doesn't chase dominance, he is free to perceive it clearly. The loudest one sees themselves as a leader. The Sigma sees the truth behind that illusion. The room listens to someone else, and the Sigma remembers everything. He stores every subtle clue, every moment of unspoken influence, not to manipulate, but to position himself with precision. He knows who respects who fears who defers to who. He understands the architecture of the group long before anyone realizes they're revealing it. This silent observation gives him a powerful advantage. He can act without resistance because he knows where resistance comes from. He can influence quietly because he understands who already holds sway. He can navigate conflict before it erupts because he saw where tension originated. And he can remain completely under the radar, gathering insight while everyone else gets distracted by the loudest performance. And to the Sigma, real power is never loud. It's quiet, subtle, felt, not heard. And because he studies who people listen to, not who they hear, he becomes the one person in the room who truly understands the invisible hierarchy shaping everything. He observes subtle tension, noticing who gets uncomfortable when true authority walks in. A Sigma male knows that real authority never announces itself. The room reveals it. When someone with genuine power steps in, it's not their words that expose the hierarchy. It's the ripple they create in others. And this is exactly what the Sigma watches. He sees who sits up straighter, who suddenly goes quiet, who forces a smile, who avoids eye contact, who overcorrects with false confidence. These micro-reactions expose the truth. People aren't intimidated by noise. They're unsettled by presence. And the Sigma studies that shift with the precision of someone who understands human psychology far better than the people displaying their tells. He notices tension as if it were a physical pressure in the air, the slight tightening of a jaw, the quick glance toward the door, the nervous laugh that tries to fill a silence that wasn't awkward until someone made it so. When true authority enters, masks slip, performers get rattled, pretenders suddenly lose their shine. Those who depended on being the strongest voice in the room feel their status wobble. A Sigma never misses this moment. It tells him exactly who has been holding fake power and who commands real respect. While most people are too absorbed in conversation to notice subtle emotional shifts, the Sigma is tuned to them instinctively. He senses the invisible lines of hierarchy rearranging themselves. He sees the quiet deference that others don't recognize they're giving. He watches how the balance of confidence moves from one person to another like a current changing direction. And with every shift, he gains information. Who is threatened, who is secure, who respects true authority, and who only pretended to have it. The Sigma's silence protects him. Because he isn't trying to impress anyone, he becomes an observer of everyone. He reads the discomfort as easily as a map, tracing it back to insecurity, ego, fear, or unspoken rivalry. He isn't judging, he's understanding. This is how he stays ahead without ever competing. He knows who folds under pressure, who adjusts their behavior to fit the dominant presence, who suddenly becomes invisible, and who challenges authority with subtle defiance. This awareness becomes a quiet advantage. While others react emotionally to shifts in power, the Sigma moves strategically. He aligns where it benefits him, distances where it protects him, and acts only when he understands the full landscape. His power does not come from dominating the room. It comes from reading it so accurately that he never needs to. He watches how people treat those with no status, revealing their real hierarchy. A Sigma male knows the truth of a person is never revealed in how they treat the powerful. It's revealed in how they treat the powerless. So while others rush to impress authority or charm those who can benefit them, the Sigma studies a different angle entirely. He watches the interactions people believe no one is paying attention to, how they speak to the waiter, how they react to a quiet coworker, how they treat the person everyone else overlooked. In these small, unguarded exchanges, he sees the true hierarchy of the room, not the one people claim to believe in, but the one they actually obey. He notices who softens their tone for someone with nothing to offer and who hardens it, who remains polite when there's no reward, and who becomes dismissive the moment status disappears. He sees the side glances, the subtle impatience, the invisible walls people build when interacting with someone they consider beneath them. These micro-behaviors expose character more brutally than any grand speech about kindness or respect. But something else, behaviors expose character more brutally than any grand speech about kindness or respect. And because the Sigma observes without participating, people forget he is watching. This quiet observation tells him everything he needs to know about loyalty, ego, and integrity. The one who humiliates the powerless will always crumble under true power. The one who flatters authority but neglects the forgotten reveals a relationship to hierarchy built on insecurity. The one who treats everyone with equal grounding that person holds a strength most never recognize. The Sigma maps these dynamics with precision, forming a mental blueprint of who deserves trust, who seeks dominance, who fears irrelevance, and who navigates life with genuine humility. He doesn't intervene or correct, he simply reads. Because the way someone treats low-top individuals foretells how they will treat him the moment they think he needs them. So he watches closely, he remembers. And he uses this knowledge not to manipulate, but to navigate, choosing wisely where to stand, who to align with, and who to avoid. This skill makes the Sigma immune to false impressions. While others get blinded by charisma, confidence, or charm, he sees the underlying pattern, the instinctive behavior that people cannot disguise. This ability to see the real hierarchy, the human hierarchy, allows him to move through social spaces with complete clarity. He knows who is genuine, who is performative, and who is dangerous long before the rest of the room catches on. He notices who shifts personality depending on the audience, a sign of insecure power. A Sigma male knows that authenticity is steady, but insecurity is theatrical. So when he enters a room, he watches carefully for the people who shapeshift the moment the audience changes. The ones who speak boldly around those they outrank, but shrink around those they fear. The ones who become warm and generous when someone influential appears, then turn cold the moment that influence leaves. He sees the subtle switches, the forced laughter, the exaggerated charm, the sudden confidence that evaporates when true authority steps in. These shifts tell him everything, not about power, but about fear disguised as power. He pays attention to the micro-assessments people think go unnoticed. The way someone's posture inflates in front of a crowd but collapses when confronted. The tone that becomes sugary when they want something, then blunt when they think no one important is watching. The selective kindness, the inconsistent loyalty. To the Sigma, these aren't random behaviors. They're signs of a person whose identity is outsourced to approval. And in the psychology of influence, nothing is more fragile. While others may be fooled by the performance, the Sigma quietly studies the pattern. He doesn't judge the loudness or the charm, he evaluates the stability beneath it. A person who needs an audience to feel powerful is a person who cannot hold power alone, and a person who reinvents themselves to fit every social group is not adaptable. They are afraid of being seen without armor. These shifts reveal an internal hierarchy built not on confidence, but on survival. In contrast, the Sigma remains the same no matter who enters the room, because his identity is rooted internally. This contrast is precisely why he notices instability so quickly. He sees the gap between who someone pretends to be and who they become when pressure changes, and he understands exactly what that gap means. A person who cannot maintain themselves cannot be trusted with influence, authority, or emotional access. This awareness gives him a strategic advantage. He knows who will betray under pressure, who will crumble when challenged, who will switch sides when convenient, and who only appears strong when surrounded by weaker company. The Sigma never confronts this behavior. He simply categorizes it and adjusts accordingly. In a world full of identity performers, he navigates through truth. And because he sees instability before anyone else does, he protects himself long before the mask falls. He protects himself long before the mask falls. He listens for emotional undercurrents, not words, to see who truly influences the room. A Sigma male understands that real communication happens beneath language. While most people focus on what is being said, he focuses on why it's being said, and what shifts the moment certain people speak. He listens not to the noise of conversations, but to the emotional frequencies behind them, the tension, the hesitation, the subtle excitement, the hidden fear. These undercurrents expose influence far more honestly than words ever can, because anyone can speak loudly, but only certain people can change the emotional temperature of a room. simply by opening their mouth. He picks up on micro shifts most people overlook. The slight drop in energy when someone untrusted begins talking. The spark of alertness when a respected voice enters the conversation. The ripple of anxiety when someone with authority asks a question. The comfort that spreads when a stabilizing presence speaks. The Sigma watches these unspoken reactions. Eye movements, breathing patterns, posture adjustments, the way people lean in or pull back. These signals reveal who holds weight in the room and who only pretends to. To him, influence is not a performance, it is resonance. He senses who creates alignment, who creates friction, and who creates confusion. He sees the invisible leaders, the ones others unconsciously gravitate toward, even if they never claim authority. And he sees the false leaders, the ones who try to dominate conversation but never shift the emotional flow of the group. The Sigma can identify these dynamics within minutes because he is not distracted by social competition. He watches from the edges, absorbing the truth others reveal without realizing it. The Sigma's attention to emotional undercurrents makes him a psychological strategist. He recognizes which personalities amplify the room and which drain it. Who motivates, who intimidates, who stabilizes and who destabilizes. This understanding allows him to predict conflicts before they surface, alliances before they form, and power shifts before they become visible. He doesn't need to speak to shape the dynamic. He simply positions himself according to the truth he observes. No one notices he is analyzing. They assume his silence means he is detached. But in reality, the Sigma is gathering data at a level of depth most people never operate on. While others are busy responding to words, he is responding to energy. And because emotional currents reveal more than any sentence ever could, he becomes the one person in the room who truly understands where influence begins and where it ends. He tracks patterns of agreement and resistance, revealing alliances and hidden conflicts. A Sigma male understands that the truth of any group is not spoken outright, it appears in patterns. So while others get lost in the surface of conversations, he quietly studies the rhythm beneath them. He watches who agrees without thinking, who hesitates before aligning, who subtly challenges, and who stays neutral until they know where the power lands. Every nod, every pause, every small shift in tone becomes data. To the Sigma, these moments reveal something far more important than opinions. They unveil allegiances, rivalries, insecurities, and unspoken power struggles. He notices who consistently support certain individuals even when the topic doesn't concern them. That's loyalty, or dependence, or silent fear. He sees who resists another's ideas with just a little too much force, not because of disagreement, but because of personal tension. That's an unresolved conflict. He observes who looks to whom before responding, signaling their internal hierarchy. That's influence. He measures who interrupts whom, who yields to whom, who backs down only when certain people enter the discussion. These behaviors tell him exactly how the social architecture is built. And what makes the Sigma especially sharp is that he doesn't react to these patterns, he simply records them. He doesn't get pulled into alliances he didn't choose. He doesn't accidentally enter hidden conflicts that don't belong to him. Instead, he stays on the outside, drawing a clear map of the room's dynamics. He learns who dominates discussions not because they're strong, but because others are afraid to oppose them. He learns who acts agreeable but subtly undermines. He learns who holds quiet power and who clings to fragile authority. This pattern recognition gives him the ability to predict social outcomes long before they unfold. He can sense tension rising before the group feels it. He can anticipate who will side with whom in a disagreement. He can detect which relationships are genuine and which are transactional. These insights allow him to move through social spaces with precision, engaging when beneficial, withdrawing when necessary, and positioning himself where conflict never catches him off guard. Most people assume the Sigma is quiet because he is uninterested, but in reality, he is analyzing at a depth they never imagine. While they react moment to moment, he is studying the entire structure. And because he sees the alliances and fractures hidden beneath the surface, he never gets blindsided by the politics of any group. He navigates with clarity, not noise. And that is what keeps him always one step ahead. He senses who holds internal confidence versus who performs confidence for approval. A Sigma male understands that confidence has two versions, the real kind that comes from within and the theatrical kind that needs an audience. And while most people get fooled by loud certainty or dramatic charisma, the Sigma sees straight through the performance. He watches how people carry themselves when no one is looking, how steady their energy remains when attention fades, how they react when challenged without warning. True confidence doesn't rise or fall with the room. It remains grounded. Performed confidence, however, flickers the moment validation is removed. He notices the subtle signals. The person with internal confidence stands the same whether praised or ignored. Their voice doesn't chase approval. Their posture doesn't shrink when someone more dominant enters. Their choices don't depend on the audience. Meanwhile, the performer adjusts constantly, laughing louder, exaggerating stories, trying to dominate space, seeking reactions like oxygen. When confronted, they overreact. When ignored, they deflate. Their entire identity hinges on being seen as strong, which means they never actually are. To the Sigma, these details speak louder than any display of bravado. He sees who is grounded in purpose and who is drifting in insecurity. He sees who speaks from clarity versus who speaks from fear, and he sees who can withstand silence, the ultimate test. True confidence grows calmer when the room quiets. Performed confidence becomes uncomfortable, restless, needy. The Sigma listens to these subtle shifts, reading the truth that others miss because they're distracted by volume. This ability allows him to navigate people with precision. He knows who is stable enough to rely on. He knows who folds under pressure. He knows who uses dominance as a mask for emptiness. He knows who will betray their own convictions the moment approval disappears. And because he senses these distinctions instinctively, he never invests in the wrong people. He directs his energy toward those with depth, not those collecting attention. His quiet observation also protects him. Performers often underestimate the Sigma, assuming his silence means insecurity, but he is simply evaluating calmly, patiently, accurately. And by the time the truth becomes obvious to everyone else, he has already positioned himself accordingly. While others chase illusions of confidence, the Sigma recognizes its essence. He reads strength not in noise, but in stillness, not in dominance, but in authenticity, not in the performance, but in the person beneath it. And because he sees the difference instantly, he becomes immune to the deception that confuses everyone else. And when a Sigma male reads a room, he isn't decoding people, he's decoding truth. He moves through social spaces with quiet precision, watching the shifts others overlook, sensing the patterns others deny, and understanding the power plays others accidentally reveal. His silence isn't distance, it's mastery. While everyone else fights to be seen, he sees everything, and by the time they realize how deeply he understood the dynamic, he's already 3 steps ahead. If this resonated, tell me in the comments, do you read people before you speak? Drop one word to show you're part of the Silent Wise Mindset Insight. And make sure you subscribe to Silent Wise, where silence is not weakness, but strategy.